The 2018 World Championship is probably the most iconic World Championship in the history of League of Legends. Not only did it bring an end to years of dominance by teams hailing from the LCK, but Invictus Gaming became the first ever champion from the Chinese League of Legends Pro League. Invictus Gaming, known by most as the League of Legends team that will take every fight on the Rift available to them, will forever have that title. Since then, however, Invictus Gaming has started a steady trend of downward domestic results. Many critics have leveled the blame for this firmly at the feet of a jungler called Ning. Part of this comes from whispers of internal drama, which is not at all the purpose of this video, but a lot of it just comes from how Ning plays in general. With Ning eliminated from the starting roster list for Invictus Gaming in 2021, and a brand new jungler from Invictus Gaming Young, the team's academy team, with probably as much hype as Xiaolongbao did last year for Royal Never Give Up, the question is whether or not that will be enough to take Invictus Gaming back to international heights. This isn't the first time that IG have tried to replace Ning with a rookie jungler from their academy team. Lian came in and out of the Invictus Gaming roster both in 2020 and 2019. As such, the veterans on the squad aren't really strangers to these types of substitutions and working with a brand new jungler. Unfortunately, I feel like Lian didn't really cut the mustard. His pathing and decision making wasn't really on par with even rookies of a similar level, and he didn't play fights nearly as well as Ning did on most of his champions. Invictus Gaming's new jungler Xun just won the LDL with the rest of Invictus Gaming's academy team called Invictus Gaming Young. He finished the series 3-0 against Shu Daishong in the final with a KDA of 9.2, playing Graves and Lilia, really coveted champions within the meta. In reviewing Invictus Gaming Young's games, probably the most striking thing about them was just how well they played around Xun, not necessarily Xun's play himself. One of the favorite setups of the team was when they pushed lanes from mid and bot, choosing that from draft, and then starting enemy blue on blue side into a double scuttle scenario for a massive lead on the jungler. A lot of Xun's pathing in general has been intelligent, but a lot of it also goes unpunished and only works out because of consistent help from his laners. For example, here is ZS, the Invictus Gaming Young top laner, willing to go into the jungle with Xun for an invade despite the top lane wave state, having ZS make the sacrifice for Xun's lead. The downside of this was that I wasn't as impressed by Xun mechanically. You can think of a lot of really cool jungle debuts from the LDL, like Ning, maybe Hacker, Xiaolongbao, Xiaopeng. I often saw Xun spacing or positioned poorly in fights, having to use his flash to get a better angle, or with key ultimates. I don't really want to flame this guy because he is a pretty young player, and there's still a lot of cool things about him, and junglers who aren't always that good mechanically, but still have a smart eye for the game, can sometimes lead a team to victory. It feels like Xun's trigger pool is really good, and I can't really be clear that he's calling some of these situations, but if he is, then that would make a lot of sense within the context of how he plays. And if IG can kind of rally around him, then maybe this is a situation that sets them ahead and sends them back to the international stage. Unfortunately, I just really don't see that happening. IG won the World Championship in a game state where the Scuttle Crab spawned much earlier, which made level 2 spiking junglers like Lee Sin, Camille, and Xin Zhao extremely high priority in draft phase. If you watch IG's early games in the final of 2018, IG solo laners and bottom lane just played extremely aggressively for prio to guarantee a scuttle secure, but after that they manipulated wave states onto their side of the map to set up fights with a winning jungle matchup. Using the technique and balanced timers, Ning often managed to visit multiple lanes across the map in consecutive order. A lot of the way IG played in the 2018 World Championship persists to this day. For example, you can see at MSI last year when Team Liquid found success putting a ward in the lane brush to spot out Ning because he would consistently shadow, look for lane ganks, and translate that into a scuttle secure. But you can also see IG consistently looking for wave states where they can pull Ning across the map and match opponent jungle ganks. When a laner holds his wave on one side or attempts to set up a freeze, it's usually a signal to both junglers in the game that this is an objective. This is a new situation where if we don't fight now, then one laner is going to lose a significant amount of XP or gold. IG excelled best at creating and responding to these types of scenarios with Ning, though it can be argued that the Shy heavily prefers dives. While Xun creates a lot of experience leads through lane pressure, Ning has actually had a lot of highs throughout his career where he's been able to force junglers to respond to him. IG played really well against champions like Nocturne, dictating that the jungler had to use ult defensively so that lanes continue to play aggressively across the map. Problems emerge when all of IG's laners try to set up these opportunities at once. Initially, just playing around the Shy let IG balance out bleeding at bottom lane just by snowballing and trading for top harder. Unfortunately, 2020 brings more unique problems to Invictus Gaming. IG's bottom lane of Puff and Southwind just didn't really perform that well in matchups that should have been winning for them. Even with a lot of fighting and ganks from both sides, for example, in this scenario, they ended up playing Kalista into a full health Ezreal, barely trading and letting the opponent take bottom turret and get Iceborne Gauntlet to scale very easily. IG's Feast or Famine playstyle led to Ning continuing to prioritize more junglers that will influence the lane, like a lot of other junglers in LPL, like Sett and Lee Sin. For example, in the LGD series, with Lee Sin picked into Graves, he would naturally fall behind and get out farmed by Graves' faster clear speed, so you see a lot more plays like this try to happen.
Dagger, I'd say, but Mark coming up could end that. Solar Flare put on down, he bellows rest in time, but there's the Zenith Blade, and the Shy at the start of the series named something more iconic as he goes 0-4.
At least it's not 1-10 like his cannon yesterday.
Not yet.
Silver lining, silver lining.
It's 16 minutes, he's died 4 times in competitive game, Dagda. There is no silver lining here.
Look, the Shy, for all we give him, saying how good he is, how individually strong, all those solo kills. I think he's third in the league right now with 21 solo kills. He has the most deaths in the LPL as well. So it's the Shy give it, the Shy take it, all right?
And then, of course, you have the Shy, one of perhaps the least self-aware players in League of Legends with only 1 speed. He often forces fights around the top, and if Ning isn't constantly split mapping for his lane, things will go terribly, terribly wrong. So you have high demand from both sidelines, and a jungler who's spread really thin on picks that naturally fall behind the existing jungle meta of Graves, Lilia, fast clear chaps. Really, I can't really see the Shy adapting well to a situation where he's playing around Xun. I can't imagine him doing the similar play of ZS and just supporting him despite his own wave state. And even though the Shy and Rookie didn't end up playing the Demacia Cup, we still saw echoes with how the bottom lane was playing with Baolan. There was a lot more focus on picks like Talia Pantheon and ganking repeatedly for lanes, with Xun making his debut for the main Invictus Gaming squad. Historically, though, on the bright side, Rookie, the mid laner, is a player who has been very good at accommodating young junglers. IG only qualified for the 2019 World Championship by picking mid-jungle combos that synergized well, and then having Rookie walk in for almost every invade first. He would use poke and trade patterns on champions like Talia to just force the enemy jungler out and keep constant eyes on the opponent to get Leon a good advantage. This, however, isn't really a playstyle that we can see IG consistently execute. They haven't really ever had a long-term commitment to it. At the World Championship in 2019, they basically almost dropped the style for the much more demanding laner-focused style, with Leon and then, of course, Ning constantly forced to shadow their lanes. I think Xun on average makes smarter pathing decisions than Leon did when he was on LDL, and in general I can see that translating over to the rest of the team, but I also can't imagine the side lanes supporting Xun the way that they did in the LDL. IG's approach of attempting to accelerate and trade heavily for sides of the map, and poor read on jungle, created a lot of demand on all of the players that have played that position on their team. This only got worse with the increase in value of camp experience. IG did have a bottom lane upgrade in signing Wink, and with as much shit as the Shy talks about Ning, you would think that at least a teammate change would make the overall environment and general feeling of the team better. But until things change on a fundamental level about IG's approach, I can see the team morphing into the kind of team with a reputation where young junglers go to end their careers. Of course, Team Solo Mid in North America recently shed that reputation with the success of the likes of Spica, so here's hoping another historical franchise in the other part of the world can do the same.